God's chosen ones, you've unknowingly surpassed the ultimate test. Now the blessings are coming. Have you ever wondered why your life feels heavier than others? Why every step forward felt like a battle you were never prepared for? Have you ever questioned if maybe, just maybe, you were never meant to live an ordinary life? Long before you knew it, long before you even understood the meaning of the word calling, something ancient had already marked you. It wasn't random, it wasn't chance. It was written, etched across the fabric of time. Somewhere deep within the corridors of eternity, a voice whispered your name, and the ripple of that whisper reached the earth the moment you took your first breath. You grew up thinking the pain was punishment, that the betrayals were accidents, that the silence from heaven was proof you had been forgotten. But what if all of it, the nights you couldn't sleep, the friendships that cracked, the doors that slammed shut, wasn't working against you? What if it was all designed to wake something inside you that could never be touched by this world's fleeting illusions? In the ancient days, when God chose David, a forgotten shepherd boy, the world saw a boy too small, too ordinary. But heaven saw a king. David was anointed in private long before he wore a crown. His anointing didn't come with applause. It came with isolation, with years of silent battles that no one celebrated. What if your life has been following the same pattern? What if you too have been anointed in secret? What if the heaviness you carry isn't a curse, but a crown, still being forged in the fires of unseen battles? You have felt it, haven't you? That quiet knowing that refuses to die, even when the world tells you otherwise. But here's the real question. Are you ready to stop doubting and finally claim what was always yours? When the storms raged, something inside you refused to drown. There were days you woke up already feeling defeated, like the weight of the entire sky was pressing against your chest before your feet even touched the floor. You tried to breathe through it, tried to tell yourself it was just a phase, that everyone feels lost sometimes. But deep down you knew this was different. This was a war raging inside your mind, a violent, unseen storm tearing through your soul with winds you couldn't escape. You looked in the mirror and barely recognized the person staring back. The confidence you once carried like armor had cracked into pieces too small to gather. The dreams you used to wear like a crown now felt childish, even foolish. How could someone like you, so broken, so uncertain, possibly be called for anything greater? The mind is a merciless battlefield. It doesn't wait for you to be ready. It attacks in the stillness, when no one else is watching. And so the storm inside you grew louder. Every whisper of hope was drowned out by a tidal wave of doubt. Every tiny victory felt washed away by an ocean of unseen failures. You began to wonder if you had imagined it all. The calling, the feeling that you were meant for something beyond the life you saw in front of you. Imagine standing at the edge of a black sea, the waves crashing against jagged rocks under a bruised, merciless sky. That was your heart, that was your mind. And the terrifying part? You could no longer tell if you were fighting the storm or if you had become it. Maybe it was easier to believe you had been wrong from the start. Easier to let the tide pull you under. Maybe surrendering to the darkness would hurt less than fighting a battle you didn't believe you could win anymore. They never told you that doubt is more dangerous than defeat. Defeat you can see. Doubt creeps in under the door, a ghost you can't catch, a cold that seeps into your bones no matter how many blankets you wrap yourself in. It tells you that you're not good enough, not strong enough, not chosen at all. There were nights when the storm inside you grew so loud that it felt like your very soul would tear apart. You buried your head into the pillow, not to sleep, but to muffle the sound of your own breaking. Every heartbeat felt like another reminder of how far you were falling from the life you once believed was yours. And yet, somewhere in that collapse, something unexpected stirred. It wasn't loud. It wasn't grand. It was the smallest flicker of something stubborn, a spark you didn't even know you still carried. And that spark refused to die. In Scripture, there's the story of Peter walking on the water. When he took his eyes off Christ, when he saw the wind and the waves, fear swallowed him, and he began to sink. But even as the sea roared around him, Jesus didn't scold him for being afraid. He reached out his hand. He lifted him up. He reminded Peter and all of us that faith was never about never sinking. It was about who you call to when you do. Your storm wasn't proof you were weak. It wasn't a cosmic punishment for not being enough. It was the crucible where false identities were burned away, where the illusions of perfection and readiness shattered against the rocks of divine reality. You see, those nights when you thought you were failing, those were the nights when the real you was being carved out. Each doubt that screamed you were alone only drove you deeper into the truth. You were never meant to do this alone. The world teaches us that success is a straight line upward. The chosen ones never fall, never tremble, never bleed. But that's a lie crafted by those who have never been called to carry real light into real darkness. In truth, the deeper the call, the deeper the wilderness, the higher the destiny, the heavier the battles to strip you of everything false before you ascend. You weren't sinking, you were shedding. Shedding fear, shedding lies, shedding the belief that you needed to be perfect before you could be powerful. You were not being drowned by the storm. You were being baptized by it. The battlefield was never about proving yourself to the world. It was about proving yourself to yourself. And the hardest wars are always fought when no one is watching. There is a moment in every chosen soul's journey where heaven grows silent, where prayers feel like they hit a ceiling, where signs seem to vanish and the road feels too dark to follow. It is in that silence, brutal, stretching, relentless, that the soul is either broken or born anew. You thought you were being abandoned, but you were being trusted. Trusted to walk by faith, not by sight. Trusted to believe in the promise before the promise was visible. Trusted to believe that even when everything around you shouted failure, destiny was still holding your name. Maybe you didn't pass every test perfectly. Maybe you sank sometimes. Maybe you screamed, cursed, wept into the night until the stars blurred. None of that disqualified you. None of that erased your calling. In fact, it proved you were exactly the kind of soul who could carry the weight of real blessing, because you knew what it cost. And now, standing on the other side of that storm, can you see it more clearly? Every wave that tried to drown you was secretly lifting you higher. Every gust of wind that tore at your dreams was secretly blowing away the illusions you never needed to carry in the first place. You thought you were breaking, but you were breaking free. And now I ask you, do you remember the moment you almost gave up? The wounds you tried to hide were always your gateway to light. You may not have realized it in the moment, but every ounce of pain you carried, every failure that tightened its grip around your spirit, every betrayal that bruised your trust, they were never random. They were never pointless. They were the chisels in the hands of a master sculptor, carving away everything that was too small for your destiny. Life, for the chosen ones, has never been a gentle stroll through open fields. It has always been a brutal, breathtaking ascent up a mountain so steep that every muscle in your body trembled under the strain. Every step felt like rebellion against the invisible forces trying to pull you backward. Every gasp for air was a declaration, I will not bow to the pain. Picture it now, that endless mountain trail, shrouded in mist, the summit hidden behind clouds heavy with mystery. Each rock you stumbled over, each cliff you barely clung to, each cold night you spent huddled against the biting wind, They weren't punishments. They were sacred rites of passage. The mountain was never trying to kill you. It was trying to awaken you, because in truth, the summit was never just a place. It was a transformation, a becoming, a shedding of all illusions about what strength and greatness really looked like. You were never meant to arrive untouched, unscarred, untorn. You were meant to arrive forged, tempered, unshakable. The world lied to you. It told you that success would come easy if you were good enough. It told you that chosen ones would be protected from the worst of the storms. But the truth, the hidden truth, reserved for only the fiercest of souls, is that greatness requires wounds, and it requires the humility to bless those wounds, not curse them. Think of Moses, exiled into the wilderness, a fugitive among strangers, herding sheep on the backside of a desert while the world forgot him. Decades passed. To human eyes, he was a failure, a wasted potential. But to heaven, he was a work in progress, his soul being toughened, humbled, stretched beyond the limits of his old self. Only through that lonely climb could he be entrusted to lead a nation through a wilderness even greater than his own. You too have had your wilderness, your mountain, your exile, and it did not destroy you, it revealed you. There were nights you cursed the mountain, nights you begged for another way, nights when every voice inside screamed that you were foolish for still believing. But the mountain never mocked you. It only stood there, silent, steady, patient, waiting for you to see that the real prize was never at the top. It was being forged inside you with every agonizing step. The deeper the wound, the greater the wisdom etched into your bones. The harsher the fall, the stronger the fire that ignited inside your spirit. The lonelier the road, the clearer the voice that began whispering from within. You are more than they told you. You are more than you believed. Pain has a way of burning away everything false. Every lie that said you were small. Every voice that insisted you were too broken to matter. Every illusion that comfort was safer than purpose. Pain stripped you bare, yes, but it also stripped you clean. There is a sacredness to scars that the world will never understand. Scars are proof that the battle happened, and that you were stronger than the forces that tried to silence you. Scars are not signs of weakness. They are signs that even when the wound was deep, even when the blade was meant to finish you, your spirit chose life anyway. And maybe, just maybe, the point was never to avoid pain at all. Maybe the point was to go through it, not around it, so that you could become someone who carries light, not because life was easy, but because you survived what was meant to destroy you. The mountain did not defeat you, it crowned you. Every painful step engraved a deeper resilience into your spirit, a deeper humility into your walk, a deeper reverence for the sacredness of the fight itself. You were never climbing just for yourself. You were blazing a trail for those who would come after. Your very footsteps in the rock have become markers of hope for those still struggling to believe they can ascend. The summit is close now. Maybe you can feel it, that subtle shift in the air, that thinning of the clouds. Maybe, for the first time, you are beginning to understand that every tear, every heartbreak, every stumble was not a detour, but a divine design. Without the mountain, you would have never known your own strength. Without the storms, you would have never discovered how deep your roots could run. Without the pain, you would have never tasted the sweetness of true, hard-won peace. Your life was never about avoiding suffering. It was about becoming unbreakable through it. It was about learning that your worth was never in how polished your victories looked, but in how fiercely you chose to rise when nothing glittered, when no one applauded, when only the heavens bore witness to your climb. And now, as you look back, as you trace the jagged path that brought you here, you must ask yourself a sacred question. Can you see it now? Can you see how the pain shaped you? How the betrayal refined you? How the loneliness taught you to hear a voice deeper than fear? How every scar carries not shame, but sacred proof that you were born for this? Can you see the light inside your scars? There is a path that only opens after your soul has been broken open. There comes a moment in every chosen one's life when the familiar ends, when the road that once made sense suddenly dissolves into thick mist and the ground beneath your feet no longer feels steady. You reach the edge of everything you have ever known, and ahead of you yawns a wilderness so vast, so dark, that it seems to breathe. That is the moment of crossing. No fanfare marks this passage. No crowd cheers you on. It is a silent, sacred shift. One that happens deep inside the marrow of your bones, where courage lives not as a roar, but as a trembling whisper that somehow still says, "Keep going." You stand before a forest so dense that the trees seem to swallow the very light from the sky. The canopy overhead is a ceiling of shadow, and every step forward feels like stepping into a living, breathing unknown. Around you, the air thickens with the weight of everything you cannot predict, cannot control. The wilderness is not hostile. It simply demands that you walk without the illusions you once clung to. The easy maps are useless here. The rules you learned before no longer apply. Comfort, predictability, guarantees, they are luxuries the wilderness will strip from you within minutes. All you have left is the pulse pounding in your chest and the memory of the promise that brought you this far. You see, chosen ones are never handed the next level of their destiny wrapped neatly in soft paper. They are called into places that feel like they will tear them apart, because only what is real can survive the crossing. The forest becomes a mirror. Every shadow you fear, every doubt you carry, every unhealed wound, they all rise to the surface in the hush between your footsteps. In that silence, you will meet yourself, stripped of titles, of achievements, of excuses. Only then can you truly begin the climb. There will be moments when the trees close in tighter, when the path disappears entirely, when you find yourself standing at the edge of a ravine so deep that the bottom is swallowed by mist. The fear will scream in your blood, "Turn back, you are not ready, this is too much." But you are not the voice of your fear. You are the voice that keeps moving despite it. The abyss at your feet is not a wall, it is a threshold. To cross it, you must first cross yourself. The self that clings to safety, to guarantees, to the false comfort of staying small. And so you will step, even if your knees tremble, even if your heart thunders against your ribs like a war drum. It is a strange and holy thing to realize that courage has nothing to do with the absence of fear. Real courage is walking straight into the heart of fear with your eyes wide open, carrying nothing but a battered faith that somehow, some way, you will find the next step. In the book of Exodus, when the Israelites reached the Red Sea, trapped between water and an approaching army, they cried out in terror. Moses stood before them, overwhelmed, unsure, just like any of us would be. And yet the voice of God spoke through the chaos, saying, "Why are you crying out to me? Tell the people to move forward." No instructions for how, no guarantee of what would happen next. Only one command: move. It was in the act of stepping forward that the waters parted. Not before, not while waiting for certainty, but after they had already decided to walk into the impossible. The wilderness demands the same from you. Your breakthrough is not waiting behind a neatly marked doorway. It is buried deep within the heart of the forest, across the chasm that your mind says is too wide, too impossible. The only way forward is through. The only way to fly is to first leap, and so you step. Maybe the ground feels unstable beneath your feet. Maybe the darkness presses harder against your skin. Maybe the voices of the past scream a little louder, but you step anyway, because somewhere inside you, stronger than the fear, stronger than the doubt, there is a knowing. The wilderness was never meant to defeat you. It was meant to unveil you. With every trembling footstep into the unknown, you are shedding the need for approval, the hunger for certainty, the shackles of your old limitations. You are walking into a destiny that is too large to be mapped, too sacred to be explained. Every hero you have ever admired once stood at the edge of their own forest, staring into the void, questioning if they were enough. Not one of them was fearless, but every single one decided that their calling mattered more than their comfort. You are no different. It is not the size of the wilderness that defines you. It is the size of the spirit willing to enter it. The nights will still come when the path feels too hard, too lonely, too endless. There will be days when you wonder if you were foolish to believe you could survive this crossing, but you must remember, even when you do not feel brave, you are brave. Bravery is not the absence of fear. Bravery is loving the promise enough to walk toward it with shaking hands. And if you listen closely, even now you will hear it. The quiet drumbeat of your own heart, the ancient rhythm of every soul who has ever dared to say, "I will not turn back." It beats for you. It beats because of you. The forest may be dark, but you are carrying light within you that no shadow can extinguish. The abyss may be deep, but you were made with wings invisible to the human eye. Wings that unfold only when you leap. And so I ask you, standing here at the edge of everything you have known, do you remember the last time you walked forward, even while afraid? They weren't enemies. They were mirrors sharpening your spirit. Not every battle you fought looked like a storm from the outside. Sometimes the battles came smiling. Sometimes they came wrapped in familiarity, speaking your language, knowing your dreams. You expected opposition from strangers, but what you never expected was the silent war waged by those closest to you. They came like wind against a fragile flame, sudden, sharp, relentless. You had only just begun to believe in your own light when the first gust hit, carrying whispers meant to snuff out the tiny fire growing in your chest. Who does she think she is? Why is he trying so hard? It's pointless anyway. Their words weren't swords drawn openly. They were stones hurled in secret, meant to chip away at the foundation before you could even finish building it. At first you thought you could explain yourself. You thought if you just loved harder, gave more, explained more clearly, they would see what you saw, that you were trying to build something honest, something sacred. But the more you tried, the more the wind howled. Some people don't hate you because of what you've done wrong. They hate you because your light forces them to see the shadows they have chosen to live in. You must understand this. Their betrayal was not a reflection of your failure. It was a reflection of their fear. Fear that your rising would expose their stagnation. Fear that your courage would reveal their complacency. Fear that your faith would force them to confront their own doubts. And so they attacked, not always with open malice, but with subtle sabotage, with half-hearted support, with the silent withdrawal of presence when you needed it most. They mocked your vision, not because it was weak, but because deep down they recognized its power and it terrified them. There were nights when the betrayal wrapped itself around you like a second skin, heavy and suffocating. You wondered if you had misheard your calling, if maybe they were right, if maybe dreaming that big, loving that hard, believing that fiercely was naive. You almost let the flame die. But the truth is, a flame tested by the wind either extinguishes or it learns to burn stronger. And your flame, though battered, chose to grow. It was in the betrayal that you learnt boundaries, not walls, but sacred gates that protect your soul's sacred fire. It was in the gossip that you learned discernment. the ability to hear beyond words and see into the true intentions of hearts. It was in the silent withdrawal that you learned that presence is a gift, not an obligation, and that your worth does not fluctuate based on who stays or who leaves. In Scripture, even Jesus was betrayed, not by enemies, but by a kiss from a friend. Judas did not arrive with weapons drawn. He came with familiarity, with proximity, with shared memories. Yet betrayal still poured from his touch. If the Son of God was not exempt from such wounds, why would you be? But here is the sacred mystery. Judas did not derail the mission. He set it in motion. What the enemy intended for harm, heaven rerouted for destiny. And so it has been with you. Every whisper that tried to choke your fire became the wind that taught it to roar. Every abandoned moment that left you bleeding taught you to heal without applause, to rise without validation, to believe without needing a choir to echo your hope. The betrayal carved out space inside you, deep wells that now hold wisdom, compassion, and strength that cannot be faked. Without them, you would not be who you are becoming. You must understand, the people who wounded you were not the real threat. They were the mirrors. They showed you where your healing still needed to happen. They revealed where you still sought approval, where you still attached your worth to being understood. They were permission slips for your evolution. The ones who doubted you, they refined your faith. The ones who mocked you, they sharpened your resolve. The ones who left you when you needed them most, they taught you how to walk with God when everyone else walks away. And now, standing in the aftermath of it all, you can see more clearly. You can bless what once broke you. You can thank the winds for teaching your fire how to lean into the gusts instead of shrinking back. You were not born to be a candle shielded by walls. You were born to be a wildfire that bends but never bows. Your journey through betrayal, envy, and slander was not a detour. It was a direct path to your awakening, because now you know how to protect your peace without closing your heart. You know how to trust your spirit without needing endless confirmation. You know how to carry your dreams with open hands, unshaken by the tremors around you. The winds will still come, people will still misunderstand, mislabel, misjudge, but your flame, your calling, your spirit, your anointing is no longer fragile. It is no longer at the mercy of shifting loyalties and temporary alliances. You have become fire born of storms, light born of night, strength born of breaking. And so, I ask you now, with all the gravity that this moment deserves, what have you learned from those who once wounded you? In the darkest waters, you were not lost. You were being remade. There comes a night so heavy that even the stars seem to abandon their posts. A night so deep that it feels as if the earth itself has forgotten your name. It doesn't crash in all at once. It seeps silently, slowly, swallowing the familiar until you can no longer tell which way is forward and which way leads only deeper into the void. You find yourself standing alone on the shores of your own life, staring into a sea of endless black. The waves crash in rhythms that have no mercy. The wind tears at your skin like invisible knives. And the worst part is not the violence. It is the silence. The suffocating realization that no one is coming, no rescue boats, no guiding lights, only you, only the vast roaring darkness. At first, you scream into it. You demand answers, explanations, reasons. You throw your fists against the emptiness, begging it to release you, to send you a sign, anything to prove that you have not been abandoned to this merciless tide. But the sea answers with more silence, and so you fall quiet. You collapse, knees sinking into the wet sand of your own defeat. You lower your head, exhausted, not just in body but in spirit. It is a weariness so profound that it doesn't scream, it just sighs, a low, broken sound, the last breath before surrender. In that moment, you are more alone than you have ever been. Stripped of every illusion, every fragile hope you once clung to like driftwood. The dreams, the plans, the certainty you built your life around, they all shatter like glass beneath the relentless tide. You thought you had been tested before. You thought you had survived hardship, but nothing prepared you for this, the death of who you thought you were. The drowning of every identity that no longer fits the depth of the calling hidden inside your bones. It is here, at the absolute zero of your existence, that something holy begins. It doesn't announce itself with trumpets or fireworks. It does not come wrapped in answers. It does not come dressed as salvation. It comes as a whisper, so soft that you almost miss it. A whisper that says, simply, breathe. Time. And somehow, against all reason, you do. You breathe. You inhale the salt and the night and the heartbreak, and you exhale the last pieces of who you no longer are. You don't stand yet. You don't charge forward in triumph. There is no victory dance under these broken stars. There is only a slow, fragile reawakening. A realization that if you can survive this, if you can breathe even here, even now, there is nothing you cannot endure. In the book of Psalms, David writes, "If I make my bed in Sheol, you are there. Even in the valley of the shadow of death, even when all light seems lost, the presence never leaves. Not because you earned it, not because you performed correctly, but because you were never meant to walk this alone." You realize something deeper now. The goal was never to avoid the darkness. The goal was to find out that darkness cannot define you, that even when your ship is shattered, your compass broken, your sails torn to ribbons, there is still a lighthouse inside your spirit, pulsing faintly against the endless black. The sea has not come to destroy you. It has come to strip away everything that was never truly yours. The need for external validation, the hunger for guarantees, the dependence on visible progress. This is where your real sight is born. Because it's only when you lose the path, the map, the predictable shoreline, that you start to see with a different kind of eyes. Eyes that recognize that true navigation does not come from external stars, but from the internal flame that no wave can quench. And here, in the deepest night, you begin to understand something you could never have known while standing safely on solid ground. You were never meant to be a creature of the shallow waters. You were built for the deep. You were crafted for the places where light seems to die, but, in truth, is only being hidden for a season, waiting for the right soul brave enough to carry it forth again. Your isolation was not abandonment. It was consecration. Your despair was not the end. It was the plow that broke open the hardened soil of your heart so that new life could be planted deeper than ever before. The seed did not come to drown you. It came to baptize you into the mystery of your own resilience. And slowly, slowly, a shift begins. You open your eyes, and though the night is still black, it is no longer empty. You see it now, the faintest shimmer on the horizon. A light so small it could be mistaken for imagination. But it is real. It is real because you have survived long enough to see it. Hope does not always arrive with banners. Sometimes it arrives with a whisper in the dark saying, "You are still here. You are still here. Your heart is still beating. Your spirit is still burning. And even in the deepest dark, even in the merciless sea, you have found something indestructible inside yourself. Not because you never broke, but because you broke open and discovered that the darkness could not swallow you whole. Now you carry something different, a quiet power, a grounded wisdom, a strength that does not shout but hums low and steady beneath your ribs. You will never fear the night again, because you know now the night is not your enemy. It is the proving ground of your light. And so I ask you now, standing here with the salt of your own survival still on your skin, what did you find in your own darkness? When you stopped chasing, the blessings started chasing you. At first, the shift is so subtle, you almost miss it. After so many nights spent wandering blind through endless storms, you have trained yourself to expect resistance. You have learned to brace for the next wave, the next disappointment, the next invisible blow meant to send you sprawling. Survival has etched itself so deeply into your bones that even when the winds quiet, you hesitate, unsure if it's real. But it is real. One morning, long before the world stirs awake, you rise, not because you are running from something, but because something calls you. You step outside, and for a moment everything feels impossibly still. The air is crisp, clear, electric, with a charge you cannot name. You lift your eyes, and there it is, the horizon splitting open in hues of gold and fire, spilling light like molten rivers over the sleeping peaks. The first rays of dawn kiss the mountain tops, and the whole world seems to inhale in wonder. This is no ordinary sunrise. This is a coronation, a holy announcement whispered not through human words, but through the language of light itself. You have endured. You have ascended. You have arrived at a threshold no one else could cross for you. The mountain that once towered above you as an impossible giant now stands beneath your feet, bathed in the golden blood of the new day. And in this sacred silence you realize that the battle you fought in the dark, the battle no one saw, no one praised, no one celebrated, was not in vain. The wilderness has crowned you. And now, without you forcing it, the world around you begins to shift. The locked doors you once beat your fists against with bloody knuckles creak open of their own accord. The opportunities you chased until your lungs burned now come seeking you. Drawn to the frequency your soul has begun to broadcast, people start to notice something they can't quite name. They feel it in your presence, in the way you walk into a room. Not loud, not demanding, but undeniable. There is a gravity to you now, a depth that pulls the right doors, the right hands, the right conversations into your orbit. You no longer need to prove anything. You are the proof. This is the reward of invisible perseverance. The harvest of all the seeds you sowed, when no one was looking, when no one was looking, when no one believed but you. The blessings do not explode into your life like fireworks. They arrive like rivers, steadily, surely, widening with every step you dare to take forward. New connections flow to you. People whose spirits recognize your journey, even if they don't know your story. New ideas spark in your mind like stars bursting into life. Projects and visions that once felt distant, now rushing toward you with startling clarity. The things you used to chase are now being placed gently in your hands, not because you begged for them, but because you have become the person capable of holding them. This is what few understand about destiny. It's not just about the prize. It's about the process that prepares you to steward the prize well. Without the nights of breaking, without the storms of stripping, you would not have the character to carry the blessings without being crushed by them. And so, in this new light, you begin to see it all differently. You see how every unanswered prayer was a mercy. You see how every delay was a divine redirection. You see how every betrayal carved out the capacity for deeper discernment. You see how every lonely night taught you the sound of your own soul's voice. The sunrise is not just around you, it is inside you. You move through the world now with a rhythm that does not match the frantic pace around you. You are not desperate, you are deliberate. You are not panicked, you are purposeful. You do not cling to doors or force outcomes because you trust that what belongs to you cannot be stolen, and what was never meant for you will slip away without effort. In the stillness of this new morning, you understand something deeper than any sermon could teach you. Favor is not found, it is flowed into. You no longer measure success by applause or achievements. You measure it by the quiet certainty rising in your chest, the peace that comes from alignment with something far greater than yourself. The same mountain that once taunted you now bows in reverence to the soul that refused to quit. And as the light pours in greater waves over the ridges and cliffs, you recognize that this journey was never about reaching a destination. It was about becoming someone who carries light into places that have forgotten how to hope. You are that carrier now, and every step you take from here forward, every breath you draw, every word you speak, it all flows from a place of overflow, not emptiness, from a place of authority, not desperation, from a place of destiny, not delay. You have stepped into a current bigger than ambition, bigger than ego. You have entered the flow of divine timing, and the universe responds to you now, not because you demand it, but because you are tuned to its frequency. And you realize it was never about luck. It was never about talent. It was never about who had the loudest voice or the biggest platform. It was always about who could stay faithful when no one else saw. It was always about who could keep moving when there was no applause. It was always about who could protect the flame even when the winds howled their fiercest. And you have done all of that and more. Now your life becomes a living testimony that perseverance plants gardens that bloom even in deserts, that faith waters seeds no one else believed would grow, that silent endurance is more powerful than 1,000 empty victories shouted from the rooftops. And so, I ask you now, standing beneath the rising sun, feeling the warmth seep into your weary bones, have you noticed how the signs of favor are starting to rise around you? The old you burned away, the new you rose untouched by the ashes. There is a point in every true transformation where something must die. It is not symbolic, it is not poetic, it is visceral, brutal, complete. You wake up one morning and realize you are no longer who you were. You feel it in the marrow of your bones, in the pulse beneath your skin. The old you, the version built on survival, on fear, on the desperate need to be understood and accepted, has crumbled to ash. And you didn't even hear the final breath leave. The breaking wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was a slow burn, a quiet surrender. The steady letting go of pieces you once thought you could never live without. Dreams that no longer fit, attachments that once anchored you but now felt like chains, patterns of thought that kept you spinning in circles, begging for permission to exist. One by one, they fell away until you stood in the ruins of your former self, stripped bare, exposed, and yet somehow more whole than ever. It is a strange thing to grieve who you were even as you celebrate who you are becoming. In the sacred traditions, there is a creature that embodies this mystery better than any other, the phoenix. The phoenix does not fear the fire, it does not resist the flames. It builds its nest at the end of its life, surrounding itself with the things it once needed, and then willingly it ignites. It allows itself to burn, to be reduced to nothing but ashes, because it knows that only through that death can it be reborn. And when the flames die down and the smoke clears, something breathtaking emerges. Not a shadow of what once was, not a wounded survivor clinging to the past, but a new being, radiant and fierce, born from the very fires that once consumed it. This is your story. You were not defeated when the world broke you. You were redefined. You were not ended by the betrayal, the loss, the silence. You were refined. You did not crumble when everything safe and certain fell away. You were reborn. Every tear that etched its way down your face watered the soil of your new existence. Every unanswered prayer carved a deeper hunger for truth. Every lonely night sharpened your hearing to the whispers of the Spirit, guiding you forward. And now, as you rise from the ashes of your old life, you carry something priceless. Not just resilience, not just wisdom, but authority. The authority that can only be earned by walking through fires that others ran from. You no longer beg life for crumbs. You no longer apologize for your voice, your dreams, your presence. You no longer shrink to fit into spaces that were never built to hold the magnitude of your spirit. Because you are not who you were. The old you would have folded under the weight you now carry with grace. The old you would have hesitated to step into rooms that now open before you without effort. The old you would have doubted the very miracles now unfolding at your feet. But that version of you is gone, burned away, honored for its service, but released into the past where it belongs. And in its place stands a soul ablaze with purpose, dripping in destiny, crowned with the quiet power of someone who has nothing left to prove. This rebirth was not an accident. It was not a lucky break. It was the reward of every moment you chose faith over fear, surrender over control, persistence over panic. The world will try to interact with the old you. They will try to speak to your insecurities, to summon your past doubts, to pull you back into old patterns. But they will fail because you have been rewritten from the inside out. Because you have seen what it costs to stay small, and you will never pay that price again. You walk now with the fire of 1,000 lessons burning quietly in your chest. You speak now with the gravity of someone who knows that survival was never the goal. Resurrection was. You dream now with the audacity of someone who understands that the impossible bends to those who refuse to bow to fear. And though the world may not understand your transformation, though they may whisper and wonder and worry about how you changed, it does not matter. You are not here to be understood. You are here to be who you were created to be, fully, fiercely, unapologetically. The ashes that once clung to your skin have become the very dust from which your new wings are formed. And these wings are not fragile, they are not ornamental. They are forged for flight into realms of purpose, of impact, of sacred service to a world desperate for those brave enough to carry the light of authenticity into the shadows of fear. You did not just survive, you transcended, you became, you rose, and you will continue to rise, not because circumstances are perfect, not because opposition has disappeared, but because you have seen the truth. The fire was never sent to destroy you. It was sent to reveal you. You were always the phoenix. You just had to remember. And now, standing here with the ashes still warm beneath your feet and the horizon stretching out before you in waves of endless possibility, there is only one question left to ask. Can you feel the new version of yourself awakening within? You are no longer seeking the lighthouse. You are becoming it. There comes a moment in every chosen one's journey when the fire that once fought simply to survive becomes something more. It becomes a beacon, a steady, unwavering flame meant not just to warm your own soul, but to guide others through the storms they cannot yet see the end of. You were not refined by fire to keep your light hidden under shame or fear. You were not pulled through the valley of shadows to sit quietly in comfort while others drown in the same darkness you conquered. You were called, anointed, and now entrusted. Picture yourself standing on the rocky cliffs of a forgotten coastline, the waves crashing in wild fury beneath you, the sky thick with clouds that refuse to let the stars be seen. And there, rising from the stone, stands a lighthouse, tall, unbending. its light slicing through the chaos like a sword of fire, reaching hands of gold out into the merciless blackness. That lighthouse is what you have become. You are no longer a wanderer searching for safety. You are the safety. You are no longer the one desperate for a signal in the night. You are the signal. You are no longer lost. You are found. And now you carry the map for those still fighting to believe the land even exists. The sacred responsibility you carry now is not about perfection. It's not about having all the answers or walking in flawless strength every moment of every day. It's about showing up with your wounds stitched into wisdom. It's about letting the light you fought to ignite pour out of you, even when the winds rage and the rain falls. Because someone out there right now is battling the very darkness you once thought would end you. And your light, your story, your survival, your quiet refusal to quit might be the only proof they have that it's possible to make it through. The world does not need more people pretending to have it all figured out. The world needs lighthouses. The world needs souls courageous enough to shine without apology, to blaze without the need for validation, to stand firm even when the storms scream their loudest. And yes, it is a weight. Yes, there will be nights when you are tempted to dim yourself, to step back, to hide once more in the safe anonymity of your old life. Because to carry light is to carry visibility, and visibility is vulnerable. But remember this: a lighthouse was never built to hide. A lighthouse was never created for clear skies and calm seas. It was built for the storm. It was made for the nights when nothing else can be seen. So are you. You were not prepared by easy seasons. You were forged in the furnace of unseen battles. You were trained in the secret places, in the lonely spaces, in the silent hours, when no one was watching. And now, every scar, every tear, every prayer whispered into the void has become part of the architecture of your lighthouse. You shine not in spite of your wounds, but because of them. They have become windows through which the light escapes even brighter. And understand this: shining does not mean shouting. Being a lighthouse doesn't mean forcing others to see. It means standing firm in your truth, in your grace, in your purpose, until those who need your light find their way to it. Some will be drawn to you in awe. Some will misunderstand. Some will resent the brightness because it reveals their own shadows. That is not your concern. You were not called to manage how your light is received. You were called simply to shine, to live out loud, to be the living evidence that rebirth is real, that perseverance is powerful, that hope is not a foolish dream, but a living force that shapes reality. In the book of Matthew, Jesus said, "You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden." He wasn't asking, he was declaring. He was reminding you of a truth deeper than fear and older than the pain you've carried. You are the light. You are the city. You are the proof. And with that light comes a sacred trust. To carry it boldly, to steward it wisely, to remember always that the brightness you now possess was bought with the currency of tears, of faith, of relentless, stubborn endurance. You don't have to wait for permission anymore. You don't have to shrink to make others comfortable. You don't have to dull your brilliance to blend into crowds that were never meant to walk beside you anyway. You are here to blaze, to anchor, to rise. And not everyone will understand your journey. Not everyone will recognize the cost of your light. That's okay. The ones who need it will find it. And when they do, they will see more than just you. They will see hope. They will see possibility. They will see the path home. So breathe deeply, chosen one. Feel the weight of the mantle you now carry and wear it proudly, for you are not just a survivor. You are a lighthouse. You are a force against the darkness. You are a living, breathing reminder that dawn is always coming, even when the night feels endless. You are proof that resurrection is not a myth. It is a reality etched into the very bones of the faithful. And so I ask you now, as the first light of 1,000 unseen suns burns quietly in your chest, where will you carry your light today? This ending isn't your rest, it's your rebirth into something greater, is not merely higher. You are more, and in doing so, you must act. Count 20. A seed that touches death. A tension, a pull, an ache that is not discomfort. This is the base camp for something higher. Look around you. Feel the ground beneath your feet. Solid, sure, sacred. You have earned this place. But lift your eyes, chosen one. Look beyond the current ridgeline. Do you see it? Do you sense it? The next mountain, taller, wilder, more magnificent than anything you have climbed before, stretching up into skies you have not yet dared to imagine. You were never called to settle here. You were never designed to rest forever on the plateau of survival. The strength you built in the valley was not meant just for defense. It was forged for ascent. There is more ahead, more growth, more light, more depth, more responsibility, more miracles waiting in the thin air where only the bold dare breathe. And the beauty is, you are ready, not because you feel fearless, but because you have learned that courage is not the absence of fear, it is the mastery of it. The climb ahead will demand more from you than ever before. It will ask for greater surrender. It will call for sharper focus. It will require deeper trust in the invisible hands that have carried you this far, but it will also offer greater rewards. Not the shallow prizes of fleeting success, but the treasures that only those who ascend into the heart of destiny ever find. Peace that cannot be shaken, joy that cannot be stolen, impact that echoes beyond your own lifetime. You see, every mountain you conquer changes you, not because of the view, but because of the climb, because of who you have to become to stand where the air is thin and the stars feel close enough to touch. And now, after all the fire, all the storms, all the silent battles you have waged and won, you are being summoned higher. This is not the time to shrink back. This is not the season to cling to old victories like they are the final prize. This is the hour to lace up your boots, tighten your grip, lift your eyes to the peaks still untouched, and begin again. The path will not always be clear. There will be stretches of steep, treacherous ground where every step feels uncertain. There will be storms that try to turn you back, winds that test your balance, voices that echo from the shadows begging you to descend. But you are not the same climber who first set foot on this sacred path. You carry within you now the memories of every battle survived, every betrayal forgiven, every tear turned into strength. Your soul has been sharpened like a blade. Your spirit has been tempered like iron in the fire. You are no longer fueled by mere hope. You are fueled by certainty. Certainty that what calls you upward is not a fantasy. It is your destiny. And every step you take now is not a question of if you will reach the summit. It is a declaration that you were born to. That the same hands that pulled you from the deep will lift you higher still. You are the living proof that grace is not a theory, but a force. That perseverance is not a virtue, but a weapon. That destiny is not a dream, but a drumbeat in your blood that grows louder with every act of obedience. So do not be afraid of the new heights. Do not fear the unknown trails. Do not let the ghosts of old doubts trick you into shrinking. You were born for this. You were called for this. You have been prepared for this. The greater the calling, the greater the climb. But the higher the climb, the closer you draw to the horizon where the sky splits open and eternity leans down to kiss the earth. And in those moments, on those heights, you will see things others cannot. You will hear whispers too pure for the crowded noise of lower places. You will breathe in revelations that cannot be found where the air is heavy with fear. This is the reward. This is the invitation. This is the next chapter waiting with outstretched hands. You have already proven that you can endure the night. Now it is time to prove that you can walk into the day, not cautiously, not apologetically, but boldly, fully, radiantly. The world is waiting for the fullness of what you carry, the lives you will touch, the chains you will break, the stories you will rewrite simply by walking fully in your assignment. This is not the end of your journey. It is the doorway into everything you have been prepared for. And so I call to the fire in your bones, to the vision in your spirit, to the roar in your blood. Stand up, lift your eyes, step forward, climb, rise, shine. You are not finished. You are just beginning. A greater journey awaits. A wilder adventure is calling. A deeper purpose is unfolding beneath your feet with every step you dare to take. And if you are ready, truly ready, to answer that call, then let the heavens hear your agreement. Let the earth feel your commitment. Let your own soul know that you are stepping into the next, higher chapter without fear. Drop 777 below if you can feel it rising in your spirit. Drop 777 if you are ready to climb higher than you have ever dared before. Drop 777 if you know that the story you are writing with your life is just getting started. This is your time. This is your mountain. This is your rise. Get ready for an even greater journey.